Commander Park Jasu sat in her command chair watching the stars through the large viewing window. The Deep Space Research Station Harmony 7 had been her home for 3 years now. It was a quiet job most days. She liked it that way. The station floated in empty space between human colonies, listening for signals and watching for problems. Today felt different. Her communication officer looked worried as he stared at his screens. Lieutenant Kim Tae-ho had been working the night shift when the first messages came in. His hand shook slightly as he turned toward the commander. "Ma'am, we have urgent transmissions from the Outer Rim colonies," he said. His voice was tight with concern. "Multiple settlements are reporting attacks, unknown alien ships." Park Jasu felt her stomach drop. In all her years in space, they had met other alien species before. Most were peaceful, some wanted to trade. A few avoided humans completely. None had ever attacked human colonies without warning. "Show me the reports," she ordered. The main screen filled with data. Colony after colony was sending the same message. Strange ships had appeared without warning. They moved unlike any human or known alien technology. The ships seemed to know exactly where to strike. They hit power stations first, then communication, arrays, then defense platforms. It was too organized to be random attacks. Dr. Kim Min-ho rushed into the command center. The station's xenobiologist rarely left his laboratory, but today his face was pale with excitement and fear. He carried a datapad filled with information. "Commander, I have been studying the intercepted alien communications," he said breathlessly. "These are not random attacks. This species has a name for us. They call us the plague species in their language." Park Jasu stood up from her chair. "Plague species? What does that mean?" Dr. Kim Min-ho activated his datapad and projected images into the air. The alien language looked like flowing water mixed with sharp angles. Their communications suggest they believe humans will spread across the galaxy like a disease. They think we must be stopped before we grow too strong. The communications officer interrupted them. "Commander, Captain Lee So-young is requesting immediate assistance. Her ship is near Colony Kepler 442b. She says the situation is critical." "Put her through," Park Jasu commanded. Captain Lee So-young appeared on the screen. Behind her, red warning lights flashed in her ship's bridge. Her crew worked frantically at their stations. Explosions could be heard in the background. "Commander Park, the colony is gone," she reported. Her voice was steady, but her eyes showed shock. "These aliens didn't just attack it, they erased it. The entire settlement has been dissolved somehow. 20,000 people lived there yesterday. Now there's nothing but empty ground." Park Jasu felt cold. "Dissolved? What do you mean?" "Their weapons don't explode things like ours do. They seem to break apart the molecular structure of buildings and people. Everything just turns to dust and blows away. I've never seen anything like it." "Doctor," Kim Min-ho stepped forward. "Captain, were you able to record their attack methods?" "Yes, Doctor, sending the data now, but there's something else. These aliens move like they know exactly what we're going to do before we do it. My tactical officer tried 3 different evasive patterns. The aliens were already moving to intercept before we changed course." The data from Captain Lee's ship appeared on their screens. The alien vessels moved in perfect coordination. They seemed to predict every human action. Their weapons fired exactly where human ships would be, not where they currently were. "They've been studying us," Dr. Kim Min-ho whispered. "This isn't first contact. They've been watching humans for a long time." Park Jasu studied the tactical data. The alien ships used technology that adapted during battle. When human weapons hit their shields, the shields changed to better resist the next attack. When human ships tried new maneuvers, the aliens quickly developed counters. "Captain Lee, return to base immediately," she ordered. "We need to analyze this data and warn Earth." "Already on my way, Commander. But there's one more thing. I intercepted part of their communication during the attack." Dr. Kim was right. They definitely have a plan for humanity. This isn't just one colony. They're targeting all human settlements in this sector. The screen went dark as Captain Lee's ship jumped to faster-than-light speed. Park Jasu turned to her senior staff. They all looked frightened but determined. None of them had ever faced anything like this before. Dr. Kim, how many colonies are in immediate danger? She asked. The xenobiologist worked quickly on his computer. Based on their attack pattern, at least 15 major settlements. Maybe more. Commander, there's something else in their communications. They mention other species. 3 others that they eliminated completely. Other intelligent species, they've done this before? Yes. The aliens call it cleansing protocols. They seem to have a system for identifying and eliminating what they consider dangerous species. From what I can understand, they've been doing this for centuries. Park Ji-soo walked to the viewing window and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an alien species was methodically destroying human colonies. They had technology that adapted to human tactics. They had been planning this for years. Most terrifying of all, they had successfully eliminated other intelligent species before. Sir, incoming priority message from Earth Defense Command, Lieutenant Kim Tae-ho announced. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main screen. The leader of human space forces looked older than Park Ji-soo remembered. The stress of command was showing on his face. All station commanders, we have declared a state of emergency. The alien attacks are coordinated and systematic. We estimate they have already destroyed over 30 human settlements. This is not a territorial dispute or resource conflict. Intelligence suggests these aliens intend to eliminate humanity entirely. Park Ji-soo felt her hands clench into fists. 30 settlements meant hundreds of thousands of people were already dead. Admiral Chen continued. We are implementing Protocol 7. All civilian ships are to retreat to inner system defense positions. All military vessels are to form defensive lines around major population centers. This is humanity's first existential war. We are not fighting for territory or resources. We are fighting for the right to exist. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. Park Ji-soo looked at her crew. These people had signed up to explore space and make peaceful contact with alien species. None of them had expected to fight for humanity's survival. Lieutenant Kim, send immediate warnings to all human colonies in this sector, she ordered. Dr. Kim, I want everything you can learn about these aliens. Their weaknesses, their technology, anything that might help our defense forces. Yes, Commander, both men replied simultaneously. Park Ji-soo returned to her command chair. Through the viewing window, the stars looked different now. Each point of light might hide enemies waiting to destroy humanity. The peaceful days of exploration and research were over. The war for human survival had begun. Outside the station, space looked empty and calm. But Park Ji-soo knew that somewhere, in that darkness, alien ships were moving toward more human colonies. The next phase of the attack was coming, and humanity had very little time to prepare. Admiral Choi Dong-wook stood in the war room deep inside Earth's military headquarters. Around him, dozens of officers worked at computer stations, tracking the alien attacks across human space. Red markers showed destroyed colonies. Yellow markers showed settlements under attack. The map looked like a disease spreading through human territory. Sir, we've lost contact with another 12 colonies in the past 6 hours, reported his aide, Colonel Park Sun-ho. The aliens are moving faster than we expected. Admiral Choi studied the tactical display. The alien ships, which humans had started calling Valkyrie based on intercepted communications, were not acting like any enemy he had studied in military school. They moved in perfect patterns. They never made mistakes. They adapted to every human tactic within hours. What do our best strategists recommend? He asked. Colonel Park looked uncomfortable. Sir, conventional military doctrine suggests we should retreat to fortified positions and make them come to us. Set up defensive lines around our most important worlds. And what do you think of that plan? I think it means we lose slowly instead of quickly, sir. These aliens have been planning this war for decades. Every defensive strategy we know, they probably know too. Admiral Choi nodded grimly. The young colonel was right. Traditional military thinking would not work against an enemy that had studied human warfare for years. They needed something different, something the Valkyrie would not expect. Across the solar system, on Mars Industrial Station, Engineer Yoon Hayan was having similar thoughts. She stood in a massive warehouse filled with civilian equipment. Mining ships, construction robots, agricultural processors, and entertainment systems filled the space around her. Her supervisor, Director Nam Woo-jin, walked beside her with a confused expression. Hyun, I don't understand why the military wants to look at civilian equipment. We make tools, not weapons. Yoon Hyun picked up a mining laser and examined its power output specifications. Director, what if weapons and tools are the same thing? What if we're thinking about this problem wrong? She activated her portable computer and began running calculations. A standard mining laser designed to cut through asteroid rock could easily damage alien ship hulls. Agricultural ships that spread fertilizer over large areas could spread other things too. Entertainment networks that connected millions of people could coordinate resistance activities. The aliens studied our military, she explained to her supervisor. But I bet they never studied our civilian technology. They probably think mining equipment is just for mining. Director Nam's eyes widened as he understood. You want to turn civilian tools into weapons? Not just weapons, everything. Look at this. She pointed to a massive agricultural ship designed to seed new colony worlds. This ship can carry 1,000 tons of material and spread it across an entire planet. What if instead of seeds, it carried something else? Meanwhile, in a research laboratory on Europa, Dr. Song Kyungmin was making a discovery that would change everything. She had been studying captured Velkari technology for weeks, trying to understand how their adaptive systems worked. Her research partner, Dr. Lim Ji-woo, looked over her shoulder at the test results. The alien technology learns from our attacks and develops counters, he said. It's like fighting an enemy that gets smarter every time you hit it. Dr. Song highlighted a section of her analysis. But look at this pattern. The system can only adapt to threats it recognizes or can predict logically. Watch what happens when I introduce a completely random element. She activated a test chamber containing a small piece of Velkari technology. First, she attacked it with a standard laser weapon. The alien device quickly developed a defense. Then she attacked it with the same laser, but pulsed at the rhythm of a popular human song. The alien technology tried to adapt, but its defenses kept changing randomly, as if confused. It's trying to find a logical pattern in the music rhythm, Dr. Song explained excitedly. But music isn't logical. It's emotional and creative. The alien system can't adapt to something that doesn't follow rules. Dr. Lim stared at the readings. You're saying we can defeat their technology with music? Not just music. Art, creativity, random human behavior. Anything that doesn't make logical sense. The aliens have prepared for human military tactics, but they haven't prepared for human creativity. News of Dr. Song's discovery spread quickly through human military networks. Within days, Admiral Choi was implementing new strategies based on unpredictable human behavior, rather than military doctrine. The first test came at Titan Station, where Captain Nam Ji-won commanded a small defense fleet. Velkari ships appeared, in perfect formation, ready to destroy the human facility. Captain Nam watched them approach on his tactical display. His weapons officer, Lieutenant B.A.E. Hyamin, looked nervous. Sir, they have us outnumbered 3-1. Standard tactics suggest we should retreat. Captain Nam smiled grimly. Lieutenant, forget everything you learned about standard tactics. Today we're going to try something completely stupid. He opened communications to all ships in his fleet. All vessels, this is Captain Nam. We're not going to fight these aliens like soldiers today. We're going to fight them like humans, and humans do crazy things. Instead of forming defensive lines, Captain Nam ordered his ships to spread out randomly. Instead of using military weapons, he commanded them to ram cargo vessels loaded with industrial waste directly into the alien ships. The cargo containers exploded on impact, creating massive electromagnetic storms that disabled Velkari shields. The alien ships tried to adapt to the human tactics, but there was no pattern to adapt to. One human ship would ram them, another would fire randomly, a third would broadcast music at full volume while spinning in circles. The Velkari adaptive systems overloaded, trying to respond to chaotic human behavior. Sir, The alien ships are retreating, Lieutenant BAE reported with amazement. Their formation is breaking apart. Captain Nam watched the Velkari ships flee in confusion. Send a message to Admiral Choi. Tell him that being unpredictable works better than being smart. Back on Earth, Admiral Choi received reports from multiple battle sites. Human forces were winning engagements by abandoning military logic and embracing creative chaos. Engineer Yoon's converted civilian ships were confusing alien sensors. Dr. Song's random attack patterns were overloading Velkari adaptive technology. Sir, we have confirmation from 17 different battles, Colonel Park reported. Human forces are achieving victory through unpredictable tactics. The aliens seem unable to adapt to random human behavior. Admiral Choi studied the tactical reports. For the first time since the war began, he felt hope. Humanity was not winning through superior technology or military skill. They were winning by being uniquely human. Colonel, send orders to all human forces. Traditional military doctrine is suspended. Commanders are authorized to use any tactics they can imagine, no matter how unusual. Tell them to be creative, be random, and be human. Yes, sir, but sir, what if some commanders make mistakes using non-standard tactics? Admiral Choi looked at the tactical display where human forces were slowly pushing back the Velkari advance. Colonel, the aliens have spent decades preparing for our standard tactics. They're not prepared for our mistakes. Sometimes being wrong in an unexpected way is better than being right in a predictable way. As orders spread across human space, the nature of the war began to change. Human commanders stopped trying to outthink the Velkari and started trying to confuse them. The results were better than anyone had hoped. For the first time since the war began, human colonies stopped falling to alien attacks. The Velkari had prepared for war against human military forces. They had not prepared for war against human creativity, randomness, and the beautiful chaos of human nature. Dr. Shin Nayoung stepped carefully through the captured Velkari research facility on Europa. The alien base had been abandoned when human forces overran it using their new chaotic tactics. Everything inside looked strange and beautiful, like artwork made of metal and light. Her research team followed behind, carrying scanning equipment and translation devices. The facility was huge, built deep under Europa's ice surface. Velkari technology hummed quietly in the walls, still working, even though its creators had fled. "Doctor, look at this," called her assistant research specialist Jang Minwoo. He stood before a massive wall covered in alien symbols and images. The translation software says this is some kind of historical record. Dr. Shin activated her scanner and began recording the wall. The symbols seemed to tell a story in pictures and words. As the translation software worked, she began to understand what she was seeing. "This is not what we expected," she whispered. The wall showed the history of the Velkari people. They had once been explorers and scientists, much like humans. Their civilization had spread across thousands of star systems. They had been peaceful, curious about the universe around them. Then something had changed everything. Lieutenant Colonel Bang Hyunjin entered the chamber with his security team. The military officer had been sent to protect the scientists while they studied the alien facility. He looked at the translated symbols with growing concern. "Doctor, what does it say about their war with us?" he asked. Dr. Shin pointed to a section of the wall that showed scenes of destruction. "Colonel, they were not always warriors. Look at these images. The Velkari were almost completely destroyed by another species long ago. They call that enemy the Chaos Bringers." The images showed alien ships moving in random patterns, attacking Velkari worlds without warning. The unknown enemy used unpredictable tactics that the Velkari could not defend against. Entire civilizations were wiped out by beings that seemed to fight without logic or reason. "The description matches human behavior exactly," Dr. Shin continued. "Random movement, unpredictable attacks, creative solutions to problems. The Velkari think we are either the same species that destroyed them, or we evolved from the same ancestors." Jang Minwoo activated another section of the translation wall. "Doctor, look at this part. It shows the Velkari response to the Chaos Bringers." The images revealed how the Velkari had survived. The few remaining members of their species had dedicated everything to preventing another chaos event. They developed adaptive technology specifically designed to counter unpredictable enemies. They studied chaos theory and random behavior patterns. They built their entire civilization around the goal of never being surprised again. They have been preparing for humanity's arrival for over 1,000 years, Dr. Shin realized. Every piece of their technology, every military strategy, all of it was designed to fight us specifically. Lieutenant Colonel Bang studied the historical images with growing unease. But Doctor, if they have been preparing for 1,000 years, how are we winning the war? Because they prepared to fight the Chaos Bringers from their history, she replied. But we are not those Chaos Bringers. We are humans, similar in some ways but different in others. The research team moved deeper into the facility, finding more historical records. Each room revealed more about the original war that had traumatized the Velkari species. The Chaos Bringers had been incredibly destructive but not intentionally evil. They simply could not coexist peacefully with other species. Look at this chamber, Jiang Minwu called out. It contains records of other species the Velkari have encountered. The room was filled with data about dozens of intelligent species. Most of the records were marked with symbols that the translation software interpreted as eliminated or cleansed. The Velkari had not just been preparing for humans. They had been actively destroying any species that reminded them of the ancient Chaos Bringers. Dr. Shin felt sick as she realized the implications. They have been committing genocide across the galaxy. Any species that shows creativity or unpredictable behavior gets destroyed before it can become a threat. 3 intelligent species completely wiped out. Lieutenant Colonel Bang read from the alien records. The Velkari eliminated them because their behavior patterns resembled the original Chaos Bringers. In the deepest part of the facility, the research team found the most disturbing discovery. A massive computer system was running constant simulations of human behavior, trying to predict and counter every possible human action. The system had been running for decades, maybe centuries. They have detailed records of human development, Dr. Shin observed. They have been watching us since we first left Earth. They know our history, our technology, our weaknesses. The computer system showed battle simulations where Velkari forces defeated human fleets using adaptive tactics. Thousands of different scenarios had been tested and prepared for. The Velkari had planned for every possible human response to their attacks. Except they did not plan for us to abandon logic completely, Jiang Minwu noted. Their simulations assume humans will act rationally, even when being unpredictable. They never considered that we might embrace pure chaos. As the research team studied more of the facility, a troubling picture emerged. The Velkari were not evil conquerors seeking to expand their territory. They were survivors of an ancient trauma, so terrified of experiencing another chaos event that they had become the very thing they feared. Doctor, we need to report this to Earth immediately, Lieutenant Colonel Bang urged. If the Velkari are acting out of fear rather than aggression, maybe this war can be ended through negotiation instead of fighting. Dr. Shin was not convinced. Colonel, fear can be more dangerous than hatred. A species that has spent 1,000 years preparing for war will not easily accept peace. Their entire identity is built around preventing the return of chaos. She looked at the alien historical records surrounding them. The Velkari had transformed themselves from peaceful explorers into galactic exterminators, all because of events that happened centuries before humans even existed. Their fear of chaos had driven them to create the very conflict they sought to prevent. We need to understand more, she decided. If we can learn about the original Chaos Bringers, maybe we can prove to the Velkari that humans are not the same species. Maybe we can show them that their 1,000-year mission is based on a mistake. But as the research team prepared to send their findings to Earth, Dr. Shin wondered if the truth would make any difference. The Velkari had already committed to destroying humanity. Learning that their war was based on mistaken identity might not be enough to stop the killing. The captured facility held many more secrets, and each discovery made the situation more complicated. The war between humans and Velkari was not just a conflict between two species, it was the tragic result of Ancient trauma meeting present misunderstanding, with the survival of both civilizations hanging in the balance. General An Minsu stared at the tactical display showing the largest space battle in human history. The Nexus system had become the meeting point where both human and Velkari fleets would decide the fate of the galaxy. Thousands of ships from both sides moved toward each other in the dark space between stars. "Sir, Velkari forces have deployed something massive near the system's center," reported his tactical officer, Commander Yu Jinwook. "Our long-range sensors show a structure the size of a planet." General An adjusted the display to get a better look. What he saw made his blood run cold. The Velkari had brought an artificial world covered in weapons and sensors. The massive structure pulsed with energy that could be felt even at their current distance. "What is that thing?" asked Captain Ko Sujin from her position at the communications station. "According to the intelligence reports from Dr. Shin's team," General An replied, "it's their ultimate weapon. An adaptive artificial intelligence that can predict and counter any human strategy by analyzing patterns from their historical data about the Chaos Bringers. The artificial planet weapon had been the Velkari's final preparation for the return of chaos. It contained 1,000 years of research, planning, and fear, transformed into the ultimate defensive system. Every battle simulation, every study of chaotic behavior, every nightmare about unpredictable enemies had been programmed into its core. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Velkari command ship," Commander Yu announced. The main screen filled with the image of a Velkari leader. The alien looked tired, almost sad. When it spoke, the translation system converted its words into human language. "Human Fleet Commander, I am War Prime Kelvok of the Velkari Enforcement Fleet. We do not wish to destroy you, but we cannot allow chaos to spread through the galaxy again. Our great weapon will analyze every possible action your forces might take. Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift." General An stood up and faced the screen. "War Prime Kelvok, we have learned about your history. We know about the original Chaos Bringers. We are not the same species that hurt your people long ago." The Velkari leader's expression did not change. "That is what the original destroyers would say. You use their tactics, you spread like them. You bring chaos wherever you go. We cannot risk being wrong about your intentions." The transmission ended, leaving the human fleet facing impossible odds. The Velkari artificial intelligence began broadcasting signals that seemed to map every human ship's position and movement patterns. It was learning about human tactics in real time. "Sir, their weapon is scanning our entire fleet," Commander Yu reported. "It seems to be running millions of battle simulations simultaneously." General An realized that conventional military strategy would be useless against such overwhelming predictive power. The artificial intelligence would anticipate every logical move, counter every reasonable tactic, and defeat every coordinated attack before it could succeed. "Dr. Kang Ji-yeon, are you ready with your special project?" he asked. Dr. Kang, the fleet's cultural specialist, nodded from her position at a modified communication station. "Sir, we have collected thousands of hours of human cultural data, music, art, literature, personal messages from families, children's drawings, poetry, and random conversations. Everything that makes humans human, but has no military value. And you believe this will help us win a battle?" "General, the Velkari weapon is designed to analyze and predict logical behavior patterns. But human culture is not logical. It's emotional, personal, and often completely random. If we broadcast all of this data directly at their artificial intelligence while we attack, it might overload their pattern recognition systems." General An looked around his command center. His officers were preparing for a battle they probably could not win using normal tactics. But humans had already proven that normal tactics did not work against the Velkari. Today they would test whether pure human chaos could defeat 1,000 years of alien planning. "All ships, this is General An. Today we will not fight like soldiers. We will fight like humans. Every ship captain will act independently. Do not coordinate with other vessels. Do not follow standard attack patterns. Do whatever feels right to you in the moment, no matter how strange it might seem. Captain Oh Seung-yun, Commanding the heavy cruiser Soul's Pride received the unusual orders with confusion. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Park Jin-hyuk, looked equally puzzled. "Sir, independent action without coordination violates every principle of fleet warfare." Lieutenant Park observed. Captain O watched the massive Velkari weapon on his display. Its surface was covered with sensors and defensive systems that seemed to pulse with intelligent thought. "Lieutenant, standard fleet warfare is exactly what they expect us to do. Today we're going to disappoint them." As the human fleet began its attack, something unprecedented happened. Instead of moving in formation, human ships scattered in random directions. Some attacked directly, others spun in circles while firing wildly. Dr. Kang's cultural broadcasts filled space with human music, laughter, crying children, love songs, and angry political debates. The Velkari artificial intelligence tried to analyze the chaotic inputs, but found no patterns to predict. Human ship captains were making decisions based on emotion, intuition, and personal experience rather than military logic. One captain attacked because a song reminded him of his daughter. Another retreated because the enemy formation looked like a scary face. "Sir, the Velkari weapon is showing signs of system strain," Commander Yu reported with amazement. "Its processing arrays are overheating trying to analyze all the random cultural data." Captain O watched his tactical display as Velkari ships tried to respond to the human chaos. Their adaptive systems kept changing defensive configurations as they tried to counter attacks that made no logical sense. A human mining ship had somehow disabled a Velkari destroyer by ramming it while broadcasting a cooking show. "Lieutenant Park, do you remember the dance my nephew performed at my birthday party last year?" Captain O asked suddenly. "Sir? The spinning move where he pretended to be a bird?" "Exactly. Set our ship to perform that exact movement pattern while firing all weapons at the Velkari command ship." Lieutenant Park stared at his captain. "Sir, that maneuver has no tactical value and will expose us to enemy fire." "That's exactly why it will work." The Soul's Pride began spinning and diving, like a child pretending to fly. The movement made no sense from a military perspective, but it was based on pure human joy and creativity. The Velkari artificial intelligence could not predict the maneuver because it was not based on logic, fear, or tactical advantage. Captain O's impossible attack succeeded where coordinated military strikes had failed. The Velkari command ship, protected by shields that could adapt to any logical threat, had no defense against an attack inspired by a child's dance. The human ship's weapons pierced through defensive systems that had been designed to stop chaos, not joy. "Sir, direct hit on the Velkari command vessel," Lieutenant Park reported with disbelief. "Their shields could not adapt to our attack pattern." Across the battle area, similar scenes played out as human creativity overwhelmed alien logic. The Velkari artificial intelligence, designed to prevent another chaos event, found itself unable to process the beautiful, random, emotional chaos of human nature. The massive alien weapon began shutting down as its systems overloaded with cultural data and unpredictable human behavior. For the first time in 1,000 years, Velkari military technology had met something it could not adapt to or predict. The battle became a rout, as Velkari forces, dependent on their artificial intelligence for tactical coordination, found themselves unable to respond effectively to human randomness. Ships that had been designed to counter chaos were defeated by the creative, joyful, completely illogical nature of human behavior. General An watched the impossible victory unfold on his tactical display. "Dr. Kang, remind me to send thank you messages to every human family that contributed cultural data to this project. Their personal memories just saved our entire species." Ambassador Lim Sung-ho stepped off his diplomatic shuttle onto the surface of the Velkari homeworld. The planet looked beautiful, but sad, like a garden that had not been tended for many years. Ancient buildings reached toward purple skies, but few lights showed signs of current habitation. His security escort, Major Kwon Dae-ho, stayed close as they walked toward the meeting place. The Velkari had made an unexpected choice after their military defeat. Instead of fighting to the end, they had invited human representatives to their homeworld to reveal what they called the complete truth. Ambassador, I still think this could be a trap, Major Kwan said quietly. A species that has been trying to eliminate humanity for months might not suddenly want to make peace. Lim Sung-ho looked around at the empty streets and abandoned buildings. Major, look at this place. I don't think they have the strength left to set traps. Their entire civilization was built around preparing for war with us. Now that they have lost that war, I'm not sure they know how to exist. They were met at the central plaza by a small group of Velkari. The aliens looked different than in the military transmissions humans had seen during the war. These Velkari seemed older, sadder, carrying the weight of centuries. Their leader stepped forward and spoke through a translation device. I am Archive Keeper Nelvok. I maintain the historical records of our people. We have asked you here because you deserve to understand the truth about this war, even though we cannot undo the damage it has caused. Archive Keeper Nelvok led the human delegation through the empty city to a massive building that looked like a library, mixed with a museum. Inside, the walls were covered with historical displays, showing the rise and fall of Velkari civilization. Your species has won this war, Nelvok continued, but victory should come with understanding. Follow me and I will show you why we believed we had to destroy you. They descended deep underground to a chamber filled with ancient artifacts and stone carvings. Dr. Ryu Jinhee, the human archaeologist who had joined the diplomatic mission, immediately began studying the alien artifacts with her scanning equipment. These ruins are much older than Velkari civilization, she observed. They appear to be from a completely different species. Archive Keeper Nelvok activated holographic displays that filled the chamber with images from the distant past. Correct, human. Scholar. These are the remains of the firstborn civilization. They created art, music, and philosophy that we still cannot fully understand. They were the teachers of our people in the ancient times. The holographic images showed a golden age when multiple species lived together in peace. The firstborn had been explorers and teachers, spreading knowledge and culture throughout the galaxy. The young Velkari had been among their students learning science and art from this advanced civilization. What happened to them? Ambassador Lim asked. The holographic display changed to show scenes of destruction and chaos. Strange ships appeared, without warning, attacking firstborn worlds with tactics that made no logical sense. The attackers moved randomly, used unpredictable weapons, and seemed to destroy things for no clear reason. The Chaos Bringers came from outside our galaxy, Nelvok explained. They were not evil by their own standards, but they could not coexist with ordered civilization. Everywhere they went, peaceful societies collapsed into random violence and destruction. Dr. Ryu studied the ancient images with growing excitement. These Chaos Bringers look nothing like humans. Different body structure, different technology, completely different behavior patterns. You are correct, Nelvok agreed. But their methods were similar to human tactics. Random attacks, creative solutions, unpredictable strategies. When our people first encountered humans, the similarities terrified us. The holographic display showed the final days of the firstborn civilization. Despite their advanced technology and peaceful nature, they could not defend against enemies who acted without logic or reason. The Chaos Bringers did not conquer territory or steal resources. They simply moved through the galaxy like a natural disaster, leaving chaos in their path. The firstborn saved as many species as they could before their final defeat, Nelvok continued. They gave us the technology and knowledge we needed to survive, but they also gave us a mission: prevent the return of chaos at any cost. Ambassador Lim began to understand the tragedy that had led to war between humans and Velkari. Your people spent thousands of years preparing to fight an enemy that no longer existed. When you found humans, you assumed we were the same threat your ancestors had faced. Yes, every aspect of Velkari society was designed around preventing another chaos event. Our technology, our military, our entire culture focused on creating order and eliminating randomness. When we detected human expansion into space, we believed the ancient nightmare had returned. Dr. Ryu activated her analysis equipment and began studying the ancient Chaos Bringer artifacts. Ambassador, these beings were completely different from humans. Their technology was based on principles I don't recognize. Their behavior patterns show no concern for other life forms. They were like a force of nature, not an intelligent species seeking to coexist. The Firstborn archives contain detailed records of Chaosbringer behavior, Nelvok added. They consumed resources without planning for sustainability. They reproduced rapidly without regard for environmental limits. They could not communicate meaningfully with other species because they had no concept of cooperation. As the human delegation studied the ancient records, the differences between humans and the original Chaosbringers became obvious. Humans were creative and unpredictable, but they also formed societies, made art, and sought to understand other species. The Chaosbringers had been mindless in their destructiveness. Your people made an understandable mistake, Ambassador Lim told Nelvok. The surface similarities between human behavior and Chaosbringer tactics would be frightening to anyone who survived that ancient war. Yes, but understanding our mistake does not repair the damage it has caused, Nelvok replied sadly. We have spent over 1,000 years preparing for a war against enemies who no longer existed. In our fear of chaos, we became destroyers ourselves. The archive keeper led them to another chamber filled with records of recent Velkari history. The displays showed the systematic elimination of 3 other intelligent species who had shown creative or unpredictable behavior. We destroyed the Korvani because they created art that had no logical purpose, Nelvok explained with obvious shame. We eliminated the Zephyrite because they explored space without clear destinations. We cleansed the Infinite Seekers because they asked questions that had no answers. Dr. Ryu looked horrified as she studied the records of galactic genocide. These species were eliminated because they reminded you of the original Chaosbringers? Yes. Each time we convinced ourselves that we were preventing another chaos event. Each time we became more like the very destroyers we feared. Ambassador. Lim realized the full scope of the tragedy. The Velkari had not been conquerors seeking power. They had been survivors so traumatized by ancient history that they had become the threat they sought to prevent. What happens now? He asked. The war is over. Your military has been defeated. But your people still exist. There must be a way forward that does not require more death. Archive Keeper Nelvok looked around the ancient chamber filled with the history of multiple civilizations. That is why we invited you here, human ambassador. We wanted you to understand that our war was not based on hatred or greed. It was based on fear and misunderstanding. Understanding is the first step toward peace, Ambassador Lim replied. But peace requires both sides to choose a different path forward. As they prepared to leave the ancient archives, Dr. Ryu made one final discovery. Hidden in the deepest records were messages from the last firstborn survivors. They had left instructions for any species that might encounter chaos. Bringers in the future. The firstborn's final message she read from her translation device. Do not become destroyers in your fear of destruction. Chaos and order must balance each other, or both will be lost. The ancient wisdom seemed to speak directly to the current situation. Humans and Velkari represented different aspects of intelligent life, creativity and order, chaos and structure, innovation and stability. Instead of destroying each other, they needed to find a way to coexist. But as the human delegation prepared to return to their ship, Archive Keeper Nelvok delivered one final, disturbing truth that would change everything they thought they understood about ending the war. Dr. Park Suman sat in her temporary office on the Velkari homeworld, surrounded by psychological evaluation reports that told the same sad story. The human psychologist had been sent to work with Velkari survivors after the war ended. But what she found was more tragic than anyone had expected. The patient shows complete loss of purpose and identity, she dictated to her recording device. Subject 47, like all other Velkari we have examined, cannot adapt to a reality where their 1,000-year mission was based on mistaken identity. Their entire sense of self was built around preventing the return of chaos. Her colleague, Dr. Choi Hyun-soo, entered the office carrying more disturbing reports. Suman, the situation is getting worse. 3 more Velkari communities have entered voluntary stasis today. They're just giving up. Dr. Park looked through the window at the nearly empty Velkari city. Once, millions of aliens had lived here, working together toward their shared goal of preventing another chaos event. Now only a few thousand remained active, and that number was shrinking every day. Their adaptive technology was designed for military applications, she explained to her colleague. They can adapt to new weapons, new tactics, new threats, but they cannot adapt to peace with the enemy they spent centuries preparing to fight. The Velkari survivors faced a psychological crisis that their advanced technology could not solve. Learning that their war against humanity had been unnecessary destroyed the foundation of their civilization. Without their mission to prevent chaos, they had no identity, no purpose, no reason to continue existing. Captain Im Tae-hyung supervised the gradual evacuation of Velkari worlds as more of the alien population chose stasis over consciousness. His transport ships carried thousands of sleeping Velkari to preservation facilities, where they would remain until someone could figure out how to help them want to live again. Dr. Park, we have another group requesting immediate stasis processing, he reported. They say they cannot bear to exist in a universe where their ancestors died for nothing. How many this time? She asked. The entire population of Settlement 7, about 800 individuals. They watched our documentary about human culture and decided that chaos and creativity are too frightening to coexist with. Dr. Park felt her heart break a little more. The humans had tried to show Velkari survivors that chaos did not mean destruction, that creativity could be beautiful instead of threatening. But for most Velkari, the fear was too deep to overcome. However, there was hope in an unexpected place. A small group of young Velkari had begun studying human culture with fascination instead of fear. Led by one who had chosen the human name Minji, they represented the possibility of a new kind of Velkari identity. Minji entered Dr. Park's office, accompanied by her study group. The young Velkari looked different from the older members of her species. Her eyes showed curiosity instead of fear when she looked at human cultural artifacts. Dr. Park, we have been discussing your proposal about cultural exchange, Minji said through her translation device. My group believes that chaos and order can exist together without destruction. What makes you different from the older Velkari? Dr. Park asked gently. We were born after the war began, Minji explained. We never lived in the time when preventing chaos was our entire purpose. To us, human creativity looks interesting, not terrifying. The young Velkari had begun creating their own art, inspired by human examples but uniquely alien in perspective. Their music combined human emotional expression with Velkari mathematical precision. Their visual art merged chaotic creativity with ordered structure. We want to learn how to be Velkari without being afraid, another young alien added. Our elders cannot imagine identity beyond their ancient mission, but we can. Dr. Park felt the first real hope she had experienced since arriving on the Velkari homeworld. These young aliens proved that coexistence was possible, that the tragedy of the war did not have to define the future of both species. But the success of a few young Velkari could not save their entire civilization. Most of the older generation continued choosing stasis over adaptation to the new reality. Within months, the active Velkari population had dropped to fewer than 1,000 individuals, scattered across multiple worlds. Commander Park Ji-soo, now promoted to Director of Interspecies Relations, established the coexistence protocols to prevent future conflicts based on misunderstanding. Her new organization worked to ensure that when humans encountered other alien species, they would seek understanding before assuming hostility. We cannot bring back the Velkari who chose stasis, she explained to her staff. But we can make sure that future first contact situations do not repeat this tragedy. The protocols required human exploration fleets to include cultural specialists, historians, and psychologists. When meeting new alien species, humans would share their cultural achievements alongside their military capabilities. The goal was to show that human chaos came from creativity, not destructiveness. The Velkari made the mistake of preparing for yesterday's war, Commander Park continued. We must not make the same error. Every alien species we meet will be unique, with their own history, fears, and motivations. As human settlements began expanding into former Velkari territory, they found themselves inheritors of vast technological resources and scientific knowledge. The adaptive systems that had been designed for warfare were repurposed for peaceful applications. Velkari medical technology began healing diseases that had plagued humans for generations. But with these benefits came the sobering responsibility of stewardship. Humans now controlled the territories of a species that had effectively chosen extinction rather than adapt to peaceful coexistence. The few remaining active Velkari, led by Minji and her cultural exchange group, established small communities on worlds shared with human colonists. These mixed settlements became laboratories for interspecies cooperation, proving that different approaches to life could enhance rather than threaten each other. "Look what we created together," Minji showed Dr. Park a new piece of art that combined human emotional expression with Velkari technical precision. "It is more beautiful than either of our species could make alone." The artwork represented hope for the future, but also served as a memorial to the tragedy that had brought them together. Thousands of years of Velkari culture had been lost because fear had prevented understanding. In the final scene, human children played alongside young Velkari in gardens built on former battlefields. Their games combined the structured learning methods of Velkari education with the chaotic creativity of human imagination. Together, they created something entirely new. Dr. Park watched the children play and thought about the lessons learned from the war. Humanity's greatest strength, adaptability, and unpredictable problem-solving had nearly caused the extinction of another species. But the same traits that had won the war could also prevent future tragedies through understanding and cooperation. "Minji, what do you think your people would have been like if they had never encountered the original Chaos Bringers?" Dr. Park asked. The young Velkari considered the question carefully. "Perhaps we would have been more like humans, creative, curious, willing to take risks. The fear changed us into something we were not meant to be." As the sun set over the shared settlement, Dr. Park realized that true victory in the war had not come from military defeat of the Velkari. It had come from helping the survivors remember who they could choose to be, rather than who they had been forced to become by ancient trauma. The war between humans and Velkari had ended not with conquest, but with the painful birth of understanding. From the ashes of conflict, a new form of civilization was slowly emerging, one that proved chaos and order could create beauty together rather than destroy each other. The price had been terrible, but the lesson was clear. The greatest victories come not from defeating enemies but from transforming them into friends.